Hello and welcome to Castle's Corner. I am Coach Castle, and today is going to be a very special day. It's going to be all about understanding the actual nuances with hypertrophy. Hypertrophy being basically how a muscle grows. Now, there's more than one way to do this. It's very misunderstood. There's a lot of new science out about it, and I'm going to be breaking down the science of hypertrophy for you, hopefully in a very simple way. And then I'm actually going to be discussing all of the practical applications to be including in your training regimen, depending whether you want to be stronger or bigger or both. I'm going to be talking about all of the different variations of style of training, be it eccentric overload, be it omnicontraction, rest pause. There's a lot of different variations I'm going to get into. But first, let's actually just go ahead and start getting into like what hypertrophy is. So this is all about basically understanding how to efficiently maximize your muscle growth. Now, maxing out your muscle size requires that you give all facets of muscle hypertrophy your attention. So that means everything from fast twitch and slow twitch myofibril growth to sarcoplasmic expansion, which is what we're going to be talking about. So sarcoplasm is the energy fluid in the muscle that contains ATP and other substrates. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is the increase in the volume of sarcoplasm within the muscle fiber, which increases its size. So the sarcoplasm is basically the fluid and everything else in the muscle that's not in the muscle fiber, that's not myofibrils. So to help you further understand the differences between the actual sarcoplasm and myofibrils, I'd like you to picture one of those long balloons that you see clowns use to make balloon animals, dogs and giraffes and stuff. This balloon is going to represent one single muscle fiber. Now let's just imagine that this long balloon has long, thin tubes that run the length of the entire balloon, kind of inside the circumference of the balloon. These tubes represent the myofibrils. Okay? Now finally, imagine that the balloon is filled with beet juice instead of air. This beet juice is going to be representing the sarcoplasm. So now we have this long balloon or single muscle fiber that contains all of these tubes, or the myofibrils, and the beet juice, or the sarcoplasm. You got 100 tubes in the balloon, and the rest is filled with a quarter of the beet juice. This will represent an untrained muscle fiber. Now, sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is like adding more beet juice to the balloon, swelling it, and increasing its size. Myofibril hypertrophy is like adding more tubes to the balloon while keeping the same volume of beet juice. Now, this will of course lead to an increased total volume in the balloon. And of course, whether you increase the volume of the juice, the sarcoplasm, or the number of the tubes, the myofibrils, both will be increasing the size of the balloon, or the single muscle fiber size. The critical difference is that adding myofibrils increases the contractile components of the muscle, which increases the strength. Now, due to more contractile units pulling on your bones, of course, this will lead to higher 1-rep maxes and an increase in load lifting ability. Now, adding more sarcoplasm, or the beet juice, increases the workload that the myofibrils are actually able to perform. This means more sets and reps can be performed because in the most basic sense, the myofibrils have more supplies to do their work. Now, depending on the strength training that you are doing and the rep ranges that you lift in, you can influence one more than the other, of course, but they will always coincide. Your muscles will grow strongest and largest when you take turns focusing on both forms of hypertrophy. So, high rep sets and shorter rests between sets increase muscle size by expanding the sarcoplasm. And also, by the way, this is one of the primary reasons that I recommend everyone take creatine, as it replenishes and increases ATP within that fluid, which is a factor in the supplement's ability to increase muscle size through sarcoplasmic expansion. Now this in turn would of course draw more fluid into the fiber to maintain cellular equilibrium. Now that's a key function of ATP, and it does work of course for most trainees unless you have some kind of a deficiency. Creatine, it will also enhance myofibril growth through more efficient muscle contraction. Now you only need 1 or 2 hard sets to develop those myofibrils. The rest of your sets really should be focused over the higher reps with short rests to develop more capillaries as well as the sarcoplasm.